What's going on? Can you hear me?
I hear you. What's happening, man?
Both
Great.
of us do the deal.
Yeah. So I was just introducing you to our audience and to my co-host. This is Carlos here. We got Jack and John
What's going
here.
on?
So John, the best way I could introduce John is this. I think he's one of the funniest streamers out there, who's a conservative and also is building what I would call a media empire out there in State College, but actually putting his money and his energy where other people's mouths just are, understand the importance of sort of new forms of media. I think you're being vindicated every day where we can see podcasts like Joe Rogan and interviews that are occurring there are by far surpassing legacy media. And I think the wave of the future is people like you that are helping young upcoming people get their sea legs under them to be able to reach messages directly to the people. So I can never speak highly enough of John Ward. I think you're fantastic, and it's an honor to have you here today.
Oh man, thanks for having us. I got my boy Jack Kentner here as well.
Hey Rob, I enjoyed our last conversation when you were on the show.
I remember. Thanks so
Cool.
much for being here as well, Jack. You
We're,
guys
we're
are
gonna
looking.
be a we're gonna be a little bit of a change of pace for you, Rob, because we just watched Penn State suck.
Did they lose?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
20
terrible.
to 13. I was just going to say,
Oh,
yeah.
Oh my
shit.
God, I'm done with it. So yeah, we were watching it on the studio wall out there on the big screen and
I
contemplating various forms of cultural suicide, whether it's harikari or just straight noose to the neck, jump off a large rock sort of thing. I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
see, now
yeah,
it
yeah.
is a change of pace because we just went from having Trump's ambassador
saw that.
on here previously. We had a couple Congress people, first person to threaten harikari on the street
Yeah.
today. So a nice
Trend-setting,
change.
like you said, trend setting.
That's right, Trent. Maybe it'll be a theme going throughout the night. But so this, by the way, this is Carlos. Carlos and I, along with the journalist named Todd Bartlett, used to have a radio show out
Okay.
of Williamsport.
all right.
So that's one of the first interactions that me, Carlos, and Todd
So
had
Carlos,
together.
are you in Pennsylvania?
I'm in Williamsport. Yes.
Oh, you
Greetings
got
from
to come down
Williamsport,
to
guys.
this. We got to get
Good
you
to
down
meet
here
you.
then. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just in
Um,
State College, Carlos, and they're setting up a studio there. You should definitely travel down sometime.
Yeah. I'll
Well, I'd
quickly.
love to talk to them. You had told me something peripheral about John a month and a half ago,
Hmm.
and telling me about what he was trying to accomplish. And so congratulations to you guys. And it the neat thing is that we're living in the wild, wild west right now, right?
Amen.
Communications wise. So,
100% on point on that, yeah.
conservatives that are funny are lethal.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, so I mean,
So-
we said just I'll plug it quickly just to explain it. The name of it is Studio Center, spelled like Center County, and we're right here across from the Hub Lawn in downtown State College. And we finally managed to convince some of the non-internet type folk who tend to be the ones that actually have money that this was something that was seriously needed. So we're in a battle, of course, but we have no long-term plan. Like you said, like we're a fort on the frontier. I'm kind of Colonel Custer, and I'm expecting a similar end. It is what it is. But Jack over here may survive and run away and carry the torch onward or something like that. So we have a
Fantastic.
standing invite to, of course, any content creators in Pennsylvania, but anybody that wants to. We're technically not really open yet. We'll probably be open around the beginning of December, but you guys are both, of course, more than welcome to come down here. The studio's like 80% built, so that's what it is, Studio Center, and it's going to be a series of shows. So like you see on your screen right now, Cider House is where we all drink an American hard cider and black out and lament the state of America and things like that. But other
I'm
things,
good at all that. Look at that.
Yeah.
I'm right
So
up my wheelhouse.
that's where
right.
Jack came from. You see him sipping his Yingling over there, so
Yeah.
we're kind of cider housing anyway. But yeah, I am very much interested in. So I'm no great household name or anything like that, but I've had very mild success being something of a provocateur or troll or music or things like that. Memes, basically. And then it's amazing to run into these younger guys, college or just post-college, who are very much interested in being involved in some sort of meaning way. But you're right, it's the Wild West. The frontier is the internet, and we're setting up something of a semi-permanent fort that we fully expect will be burned down by Indians. But one or two of us might make it out and keep it going. So we really appreciate being here,
Yeah, thank you, Rob.
and that's the end of my plug.
Yeah.
Back-
Well,
backslash
just
advertising.
one more thing. I'll ask this one specifically to Jack so we could actually hear, a robust voice, if you don't mind. No, like, I think one of the things that I tried to do with Carlos was we were trying to merge a traditional conservative radio audience with sort of a more modern, using these different forms of technology, whether it be streaming services and things like that. I think that one of the things you stand on the precipice of there, Jack, with people like John, is that if we could get connections to people from the traditional political world and sort of those old money people, that I think there's a potential to really blow up. So, for example, Alex Stein's going to be on the show later. He works for The Blaze.
Ooh,
Carlos has a couple of guys that work in the film industry with him that wrote the movie Nefarious that was partially funded and produced by Glenn Beck.
I saw it.
Yeah, getting people like Glenn Beck, or people, it doesn't have to be Glenn Beck, but people like that have a vested interest in putting this country in a good direction. What do you think about the importance of putting money and energy into sort of programs like what you all will be doing to try to merge that sort of traditional political audience with sort of a new, young, and upcoming form of media?
He's asking you, Jack.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I totally agree, Rob. We need the times are changing, and we definitely need to adapt to it. I've been telling John here that he needs to get on Kick, because Rumble, frankly, has been not performing adequately in live streams for the past couple of shows we've been doing. So yeah, it's been interesting trying to get both the studio off the ground and to get shows off the ground. But we've been slowly but surely meeting expectations, and I'm very excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, I think that's a key point of it, Rob, is nobody gives you anything in this life for free, and you're not going to go out and pitch somebody on what your idea is. Hey, I have this great idea. Well, that never works. You've probably run into that yourself. Yep. So you have to put your own sweat and blood. You have to have skin in the game. So, it's a lot easier to get funded when you take every penny you have and put it into a project. Then they know you believe in it, not just that it has meaning, but in theory that it has some sort of chance of financial success. And so that, to me, is the network you're talking about. It is somewhat, we're transitioning from this unorganized, or as Arlie Ermy said, this disorganized grabastic piece in a group of whatever, and we're trying to become grown men with a killer instinct who can function in battle properly, which we definitely cannot currently. And there's a lot, you're one of the unique guys who I like, and we've met, I think, relatively recently, but so many people are in it for themselves. And so anytime you kind of get something going and somebody feels like they have an angle to promote themselves over the group, it's this weird paradoxical, like, we're individuals who need to be a little more, I hate to use the word communist, but communal.
Sure.
Take a personal sacrifice. So I haven't made any of my actual John Ward content for a year or so at least. But that's because I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that this sort of long game, 5 years, let's say, that's really not that long. So I've lived long enough to realize how short 5 years can be, as well as how long it can be. So people want to see proven results, and it's really hard to prove results when you don't have any money. And so, but what is nice, like you're saying, the people with money at least now understand the importance of this, and then realize that our audiences, or our aggregate audiences, are bigger in a lot of cases than the mainstream media, and that the audience as a whole, or the American one, is much more interested in something that's conversational, maybe 105 IQ instead of 100, somewhere in the act, just slightly moving the ball in the right direction. And then, of course, like I stumbled across almost 10 years ago, is people won't listen to you unless you're somewhat entertaining. The field is entertainment.
Yep.
And it's got to be fun. That's the word I always repeat. It's let's have some fun. I don't want to, I'm trying really hard not to swear, because
it's okay. We can swear in this portion. We'll clip out the ambassador before, everything that we say from here on out is not necessarily embraced or co-signed off by the Congress.
It's John Ward's unique views, and it doesn't reflect on anybody else. Yeah, I'll stand on that. So I don't know. So many people sat there, even when I started in 2016 or something like that, like, hey, we should go do this or go do that. But then they wouldn't do it. They're like, the whole waiting for Superman bullshit.
That's right.
And I think it's because they're actually smart. You don't want to be the first guy through the breach, because you're the one taking 20 arrows to the face. If you're smart, you're the politician's son from a West Point grad who leads from the rear. That is the safe and smart thing to do. And so anybody leading from the front right now, myself included, is maybe unique, but also kind of a lunatic. And we don't have great luck with the financial type people. And so they've, I think, struggled to. Yes, you seem to be making a difference, but you're also this madman cavalry officer riding through the West, scalping people. And I don't know that I want that to reflect on me in the next political election. But what's changed is people kind of want that now. Even look at this damn Peanut the squirrel. If people are
Yeah.
out for blood, man, and I don't blame them, and I'd be right there with them. Like, yeah, I'll die on that Squirrel Hill or whatever. It's almost like Rebel Without a Cause, but now we have a cause. So you don't have an excuse anymore. Everybody's been, or at least all young people, so I'm going on 40, Jack 20. Everybody in that age range is like, give me an awesome battle to fight, and here it is, and then they don't fight it.
That's
so we're
right.
trying to work on that.
And the beauty is, it's a battle worth fighting, and we're on the right side of it, and it's fun, right?
Yeah, it's glorious in the way that the invasion of Troy was glorious for both the winners and the losers, and as you know, that stupid Brad Pitt movie. But since people have probably seen it, it's just like you got to lose not just the fear of living or dying, but you got to understand that even philosophically, dying young in glorious battle is probably better than the alternative we've been led to see as the reality when you don't do that, when you're the baby boomer generation and you live your entire life, not like calling anybody out individually here, but in a general cultural sense, that the goal of life, at least as it was taught to me by the older generation, was to live as long as possible, accrue material objects and wealth, accrue respect from other people that are part of the system that self-reinforces it. And that just really turned into this clusterfuck of keeping up with the Joneses. And now we have no originality. You think about modern media and movies and film and politicians up until Trump. It just became this like Fight Club, a facsimile of a facsimile of a facsimile.
Yep.
And all those little errors start to add up. And then you're just looking at a jump, by the 100th copy of that, this jumbled mess of nothingness. And so you got to be a little bit of a lunatic to try to push that boundary in the time. And I've flirted with it. I've had some success and some not. But people like Jack, I think, and I'll stop rambling here. But people, it helps to see that you can do that and you don't just die.
Right.
Like the shit I do and nothing happens to me. It's because it's now understood that I'm not going to go, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I'm going to be like, yeah, and here's another one.
That's right.
It's going to be way worse.
Yeah.
On that note, Carlos, maybe you saw my friend John here. Went a little viral about a month ago. So a streamer that I've had a run-in or two named Destiny did a live event in State College. And the intrepid John Ward got to ask a question in the audience that went a little viral. Could you talk us through sort of sitting into that debate and what went into sort of your important question that you had for Mr. Destiny?
Yeah, well, not a lot of effort went into it, to be honest, but kind of what happened for context. So this event was put on by an organization called Uncensored America, whose president we actually have sitting out there watching a football game, but his voice is gone, so he's not here with us right now. But Sean Semenko is the guy who runs that. He's a great guy. He's been in our studio. He's done a show here. And so he suggested I come to that, which I happily accepted. But you have, the way that works is they do this debate. It was Destiny and John Doyle. And right off the bat, I mean, let me say this. John Doyle, I think, who I knew nothing about, did a fantastic job in the debate. But the whole time I'm sitting there for an hour and a half people make the mistake now of taking Destiny seriously. And so you have this, his argument would be like, oh, you trolled me. And I'd be like, I meant what I said in that question. So I got up there, I waited in line and I said, there really is only one question to ask in this situation. And that is it true that you sat in a corner of a room and watched a bunch of dudes fuck the shit out of your wife? And yes, it's a troll in a sense, or at least it seems but I feel like I'm making a deep and profound point there, Rob.
Yeah, he really wanted to ask that question. I remember he was wrestling the mic out of James for Modern Day Debates.
Oh no, so I saw that. I knew as soon as I started talking, they'd start pulling that microphone away from me. So I got a nice grip on it.
James is a nice
like
guy, but you could
I
stroll
held onto
him.
that microphone like Destiny's wife held onto another man's penis.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I personally haven't, when I've talked to Destiny, I don't bring up the relationships type stuff. But here's the thing. Destiny will make fun of Corey Competore, the firefighter that got
That's
shot.
my point.
Destiny, that's the point, right? Yes.
He doesn't act in good faith, so you shouldn't either.
You use up to the aggression level that your opponent's willing to use to you. If they're going to make fun of situations like that, they don't get to cry foul when other people use that same sort of intensity against them.
It was not an aggression. It was a retaliatory strike of self-defense on behalf of the entire internet, if you will.
Yeah. And so I was amused by it. I thought it was funny. And I also think that, like, there's power in sort of that sort of ability to have fun and make fun of people like that as well. And it's something that a lot of streamers lose sight of. You either have the people that just are memeing their way through and they don't really have the ability to make a serious political point, or the people that are just stoically making points that aren't that entertaining. And I think what you bring is something that's nicely in between there, where you're actually saying things that resonate with the American people, but at the same time, you could do it in a way that's fun and entertaining as opposed to just being like, you know, paint drying on a wall.
Yeah, I mean, there's much meaner versions of that question. There's much more PG versions of that question. You know, I'd like to think I artistically walk the line appropriately, but you know, you never know. But it's that fear of failure. It's not like there's not been other people that have wanted to say that. I think they might just get up to the microphone and then suddenly have these, you know, second guess themselves or have doubts, or they worry about their own brand. That's, in my opinion, absolutely worst thing. The brand, the personal brands that become fun to watch are the people who don't give a fuck. And so, but you also can't just be like a Kim Jong-un of the internet, constantly threatening, because then nobody wants to deal with you. So I have the opposite problem of most creators, which is that I need to back it off a little bit so that people take me seriously. And like, fortunately, I'm somewhat able to be articulate when I do that. But most people are the other way around, is they're always like waiting for this person that doesn't actually exist to give them permission. It ain't coming. Just go do it.
Right. Well, what's admirable about you, John, just meeting you and listening to you, is that you're not afraid to say that you want to live a life of meaning. And that, hey, listen, that's my hat's off to you. And I'm praying for you. And but I did want to ask you a question, just because of me listening to you and some of the things that you've said. You sound like a gamer. Do you play D&D?
No. Well, I mean, you mean like fantasy type? I mean, I
Dungeons and Dragons. Some of your
like
language,
tabletop games.
Some of your language is very D&D-ish in terms of, you know, a character trying to, you know, mobilize the masses. I played for 50 years, so it's kind of in my ear, you know, when I hear it.
Yeah, no, I hear exactly what you're saying. I'd say what you're saying is special relativity, and the way I am is I'm a I'm general relativity, and so I believe everything is a story, and so the game is a specific version of a story.
Right.
But you can all, and so you just like being funny, people will listen to a good storyteller over, like Rob said, somebody who might be extremely well read and listing off all these extremely relevant and interesting points. But for the content creator, who I think is usually above average in intelligence, or the artist, that's the general, like an artist is a generalized content creator. So an artist, I'm not like sucking my own dick here. There's no right word for it. I don't really like the term. So you get what I'm saying. So whether or not you like, I don't believe you have a choice but to tell a story. And so you're either telling a good one or a shitty one. And so once you realize that that's what you're doing, and your own face and brand on the internet is part of that story, you just kind of end up leaning into it. But these are all sort of little heuristic shortcuts, I think, to trying to understand like what the fuck is going on and what do we do about it. And that's, I mean, I actually have read quite a bit. I've read everything from that's 3,000 years old to 3 years old. And I think it's undeniable that one of the fundamental philosophical questions, at least for young men, is it better to, you know, fade out, or what's that fucking Kurt Cobain shit? It's better to, there's some truth to that. And that doesn't mean you go try to burn out really quickly. It's like Patton said, the point of war is not to die for your country. It's to make the other bastard die for his.
Die for his.
So it's, you got to do both. And so people that go too far in the glorious direction end up throwing themselves away for no real gain. Don't do that. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
You gotta you play to win, but you gotta not be afraid to lose. And I know that ends up being kind of meaningless instruction, but that's why you got to be an artist to pull it off, I guess. And I'm not saying that I am, but I think it's worth trying rather than not trying.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll see.
Exactly right, which is why you're
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah.
Exactly right. My
And if
hat's off to you.
Die some stupid fool that the internet makes fun of forever, I just don't give a shit because I ain't gonna have to be here to deal with it, and other shit will happen and people forget about it. So
Right.
So
for me, it's a logical decision. Like I feel like I'm being logical.
I agree.
So speaking of story, why don't you tell us your origin story and how you got here, and then have Jack do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Geez, I'll try to keep it quick here. I realize I'm talking. We were drinking a lot of beer during that Penn State game. So
We
I'm
like to
just
listen
now.
to
I'm
people who
just
drink
Let's
beer.
hear that origin story.
Yeah, we like to listen to people who drink beer.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. It makes for more fun entertainment usually, unless you go one beer too far, and then it makes for fantastic entertainment. So,
Is this a 1 or 2 beer story?
no, this is like a 7 beer story.
Gotcha.
7 or 8, I think. Yeah. So we've been started at noon. So it's a lot of beers, but it's a case story. It's a case study. There you go.
Yeah, that nice, good pun.
Very good. Yep.
Could have had that on the first one. But anyway, so I'm from here. I'm from State College, Pennsylvania, back when Joe Paterno behind me here was coaching and stuff like that. And then through a series of unfortunate events, ended up in Pittsburgh and then Texas and then back in State College. My YouTubing career, I guess I started on YouTube, was back in 2015. Don Lemon interviewed Sheriff David Clark. I don't know how well you remember him.
Remember that?
I do.
He was a big deal there for a little while, but I wasn't even political and I didn't really know anything about Trump, to tell you the truth. But holy shit, was Don Lemon so bad that I had enough film knowledge. When I went to Texas, I went there for an animal behavior PhD program, and then I ended up instead quitting that and trying to make a independent film, which we lost all of our funding for. But through that process of failures, I at least knew the basics of how to do like a voiceover while editing a fucking video clip that I downloaded from the internet. So it just, in like 4 hours, I just went over this interview and stopped it. It's kind of a cheesy format and an overdone format these days, but where you stop it periodically every time Don Lemon's a fucking retard, and you just kind of go, hey, look at that fucking retard, and then you press play again. And that video went almost an entire, I forgot about it. I like the channel, I just made it under my own name just to post it. I couldn't even tell you to this day why I posted it publicly. But I did. 0 views for a year. And then all of a sudden, like December 2015, I woke up and it had, 100,000 views, and I ended up making a couple $1,000s off of it. And, so I was making like $1,000 an hour for 4 hours. And so I said, man, maybe I'll try doing this for a while. And then of course took me 500 more videos to ever get another one of those on that level. But it's a lot of work to become a content creator. I worked a full-time job, and I found one where I had free time to stand at a counter, and I would write video scripts for 8 hours, and then I'd go home for another 4 hours and make a video every single night. And that, part of it was the timing. I won't take too much credit. Like the YouTube at that point in 2016, right at 2016 was probably the tail end of it, where you could kind of organically grow. Before they really, after Trump won, they locked it down. And so that part of it was pure luck. But you understand when you have a good thing going. And so then I started watching other people. I started to read about what branding is and how do you keep going. But for me, I think I always made it part, like I've said already, I always wanted to do something new. Like each time we left the fort and went on a little patrol, I wanted to go a little bit further and see what happened. And that ended up in these weird songs like I Love America, talking about, white penises and shit. So, but that's some of my, like when I run into people and they know my content, it's usually shit like that. So that's the origin story. It's a lot of luck, a tiny bit of knowing what I'm doing, and a tiny, a good amount of right place, right time. Jack.
Yep. So I'm an alumni of Penn State. So I naturally met John while I was interning for a local candidate that we've been supporting, Therese Hullen of the 82nd District. And John and I started talking, and I decided to join him because I agree with his sentiments. that conservative or like big con, as we like to call them, haven't really been subsidizing the arts, and that's a major issue for us, because if we don't do that, then just like everything else, that's prone to institutional capture, and people really value storytelling, and they're going to use the stories that they hear from leftist leftist shitholes like Hollywood to shape their worldview.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to join John to try to be a pioneer in this space, try to do something that nobody else is doing. And we've been, I would say, fairly successful so far in getting our voices and opinions out. And we've certainly helped Therese, who has been a frequent guest on our show. And today, I think, yeah, it was today, Charlie Kirk gave her a shout out and said, hey,
that's awesome.
Originally,
yeah, that was great.
Originally, she like it was it wasn't really quite, we weren't quite sure that she would have a chance, but now that we've made ourselves known in Penn State, us and Charlie Kirk included, she is now giving the incumbent Paul Takak a run for his money, and this is someone who has no political experience whatsoever.
A seat that's gone blue for forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not that that's all to us, but just it's the change that's happening now. She is more willing to take us seriously, and I think we've helped a little bit. And she got out there and did that event with Charlie Kirk. I don't know if you guys told her to do that or not, but I doubt she knew who that was, right?
Yeah. But that just goes to show you that what we're doing, it has an impact. And if more conservatives just acknowledge the power of storytelling, or just what artists can contribute to the movement, it would make a whole bunch of difference.
No, that's excellent. Now, I have a question for each of you. I'll start with Jack, though. So I've been hearing very good news coming out of Center County that traditionally, for those that don't know, if you're not in Pennsylvania, right, Center County is home to State College, where the team you may know of, Penn State, that apparently tragically just lost to Ohio State again today. Yeah. But that's what you would probably know it from. And seeing as how it's one of the biggest campuses in Pennsylvania, young people traditionally voting Democrat. So the twofold question, the part to John, which we'll get to second, I know that's a little reversed order, is how do things look in general in Center County? But specifically to you, Jack, who probably still has some connections on campus, I'm guessing as a recent alumnus, how are young people feeling about not just Trump, but the Republican ticket that you see on the ground there at State College?
Oh, man. Well, if you're asking me anecdotally, you couldn't have asked a better person, because I'm pretty much tabling every day downtown, just trying to get people to support Trump. I used to be the president of my YAF chapter here, Young Americans for Freedom, and I'm still in touch with the current president, and I'm also in touch with the current president of TPUSA, and they've been doing great work. Besides Charlie Kirk, who is only here for an hour, but he made like a gigantic impact here. I think he registered like 300 people to be for Republicans. Yeah, and besides him, we had Vivek Ramaswamy brought on by TPUSA, and I think the fact that both of them were here, that directly led to Donald Trump coming here to the BJC, which was huge. He was a little late though, because his airplane was too big to fit in the airport. But that's also why he didn't show up tonight to show up to today's game. But still, like I really like how much attention my campus has been getting. And I would say it directly correlates with students becoming more red. You get your fair share of crazies. Like a very funny story I like to tell people is that one guy came yelling at me and my coworker saying, "Do you know what Trump did on January 7th?" Like, yeah, he literally said January 7th. I said, "No, what do you do?" Yeah, and
slept comfortably, you know.
Yeah, we played dumb for a bit until he realized that it was on January 6th. But yeah, I would say just getting more directly involved really made a difference, and as a result, our work is paying off. And even if we ultimately don't win, it's not going to be as big of a blowout as it was previously. It's definitely going to be really close. And we've had more students on campus willing to go after the opposing side. Like, John, do you think we should tell him the Paul Takak controversy, the local controversy?
Go for it.
Yeah. So during one of her debates, Therese.
Let me say, Rob, are we scheduled till 4:30? You got somebody else waiting?
No, you go till 5, man. So
All right,
Oh, yeah.
yes,
as
then
long as
by
you
all
guys are
means.
willing to stay.
No, I just didn't want to cut somebody else
Two
off.
guests, 2.5 hours. That's how I
There you
look
go.
at it. So we're
All right.
good.
Okay. Yeah, so this is a local story you can look up from the Center Daily Times. But Therese, she debated Paul Takak, the incumbent, the same night Vivek came, and my friend Danny, he was in the audience, and he saw what he alleges to have been one of Takak's supporters or his aides sending him notes on his iPad, which is not really allowed during debates. He's not allowed to have an iPad on him during debates. So his aide was allegedly sending him information or talking points of what to say to Therese, and Danny, who recorded it on video, handed it to a reporter who said, who later for the Daily Collegian Times, the student-run newspaper, they reported on it, and apparently that had really damaged Takak's campaign, and we're just really hoping come election day that it results in Therese winning.
They can't even do shit like that. Like just a debate, they can't even do shit like that without cheating. It's so frustrating. The most untalented, unimpressive people, man.
I'm sorry.
So,
Sorry, I was standing up there. We just got another guy in the room. I'll bring him on in a second, but go ahead, Carlos. Sorry.
So, are you guys friendly with the former chairman up there, Chris Eng?
I don't think we're in contact with him now.
No, I
Yeah.
only really got
She
in
was
touch with
the
people, yeah.
Republican chairman at Center County. I think she left, I want to say 2 years ago, and I'm not sure who the new chairman is, but how is your working relationship with the party there, the county committee?
Pretty solid.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
it's honestly pretty good. The new chairwoman in Center County is Michelle Shelberg, and I think she's great, and I'm told she's a one of the better ones in the state of Pennsylvania. So
Yeah, you guys have one of the better Lincoln Day dinners
Yeah.
in the whole entire state. I've been
Nice.
up there many, many times. It's one of the very few times that we get to see GT Thompson because he's farther west than us, than me anyway.
My
And
district. Yeah, Clarion.
yeah. So when I go to the Lincoln Day dinner in Center County, GT always shows up. So, and they
What
have
is-
a fabulous, fabulous dinner there.
Carlos, the dude that ran for the election I ran for in 2019, I show up to the Lincoln dinner. He's the guy that was like, used to be on Fox News all the time, that was like involved in law enforcement. Very, like he was, you know what I'm talking
Joe Peters.
Joe Peters, right? This guy looks straight out of Central Casting for like, some sort of mob movie, like.
Oh my
and
gosh, yeah. He's a
I
mob
get-
boss.
I get invited, like he's just super Italian, super like, involved in that sort of stuff. I go to the Lincoln dinner because I'm running for this office out there, and I bring my mom. It's the first like political thing my mom's ever done with me. And he happens to be sitting next to us. That was his assigned seat. And like, you have all these impressive people, all of these officials, whatever. My mom for like 3 weeks was like, who is that guy that fought the mob that was talking to us? Like, how do you know this guy? He's like he was some super, I bet that guy has no idea the impression he made on this lady. Like that she to this day is like, that was the coolest guy, like to see a real life guy that fought the mob. So I always remember that from the Center County Lincoln dinner. It was
Yeah.
my opportunity to impress my mom finally. I could be sitting there with like, I qualified for the national debate tournament. My parents were like, oh, that's kind of cool. I could be sitting there with like Elon Musk. My mom would be like, who? But that dude that fought the mob, it's like,
Yeah.
shit, yeah. What a
Joe
but-
Peters.
So
Yeah, he
John,
was a prosecutor who became a politician.
yeah, he was a cool guy. He really
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
John, you obviously bring on whoever you have there as well. But just while you're doing that, how do you see Center County looking like compared to like past years, maybe 2020, as far as like Republican support?
I think this is the best. Yeah, I'll bring you on in a second. I can't tell what you're mouthing at me. He can speak to it better than I can, so I will introduce the world. No, he's been on a Cider House before. Michael Scott, what's going on?
Howdy.
Mike, how's it going, sir?
Your microphone should be on, hopefully.
Testing.
Oh, here, hold
Yeah,
on.
we hear you.
Let me bring you up a little bit.
Howdy.
Oh, that's
Nice
too much.
hat, man.
Nope.
I'm digging that.
First off, well, thank you. First off, I want to say, fuck James Franklin.
Not a fan, huh?
No, this game today was.
He's never been a fan.
He goes, he can speak to this better than I can, and then he starts talking about fucking football.
Even
That's
when we're
okay.
winning, he says fuck game break.
Okay.
Even when we're winning.
Anyway, so the registrations look good right now in the county. We are only down about 100 in terms of active voters, and about like what is it, like 900 in terms of like total voter.
You're talking about the whole county?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
the
that's
whole
what's
county.
being reported.
The I think momentum out in the rurals is much better this year, and I think in the town there's a lot more like people willing to express their conservatism, especially amongst the frats. I
Mhm.
think right now, if Trump wins the state of PA, he wins Center County. Center County is probably going to vote in line with the rest of the state, like it usually does. I would say right now Center 1-2 because I think Trump's winning the state. And but what I will say is I was walking down the street here today, and I was very pissed after the game, and I dropped my other hat, and this chick I didn't realize I dropped it, so I went back to go get it after a little bit, and this chick right in front of me steps on it like 3 times and then spits on it, and I call her out right behind her, and these 20 people like see this lady, and I'm like, there you go, you acted completely like
She was like
feral.
this fucking inanimate object.
She acted feral. She acted like she acted like she had
The
some
wild
Rabies.
beast.
Rabies.
Yeah, right.
Yes, rabid. That's a good way to say it. Yeah, I don't want to cut you off if you.
No, I'm good now.
No, I mean, I think
That's my introduction.
I think that's pretty accurate. I know I don't know how familiar you are with the entire county, Rob, but like, yeah, the rural areas, which is the majority of the space of Center County, are definitely going Trump. I don't think.
and look more Trump than they looked last.
Yes, correct.
Right.
The borough of State College is where all the problems arise, and they've gerrymandered it to be split between 2 districts that turn 2 red districts into 2 blue districts, that kind of bullshit. And so that we talk about Therese Holland in the 82nd. That's like kind of the big eye-opening one that Charlie Kirk just posted something about her and things like that. That there's actually more in the 82nd. There are more active Republican voters now for like the first time fucking ever than there are Democrats. But there's this very large chunk of who the hell knows what they're going to do. And everyone's been trying to figure out, are those Penn State professors that are going to break liberal that are just registered as undecided, or is it the other way around? There is a lot of pressure in the town of State College itself to not show any sort of signs that you're pro-Trump. But like Michael
Except for the frats. Except for the frats.
they've grown their balls back a little bit, excuse me. And so, yeah, the frats, I think on campus, the men are honestly more Republican than Democrat, or at least,
Oh, yes, absolutely.
like
Definitely.
noticeably so.
Young
And-
men are much more conservative.
which makes complete sense if you think about it psychologically. They're the ones getting fucked over. And
Yeah,
so-
and I actually have a funny story for this because I tried to attend all the political rallies, which here on campus, which unfortunately included AOCs, and I joined that with a friend.
yeah,
And it's very telling how they know who their masculine or who their male audience is. Because while I was waiting in line with a friend, they were handing out like very flamboyant buttons. And what I mean by that is that they each gave us feeling zesty and feeling fruity pins.
So basically,
Yeah, we hear.
I am also a fellow, and as a fellow, I can say fuck you
You-
to the.
it's like
You're
the
allowed to say
but
it?
for gays, right?
Yep, pretty much.
Live and let live, baby. So this is the question that I have for you guys.
Sure.
So, the idea, the democratic ideal of, always protecting the disenfranchised. So I'm curious with your guys' generations. I know, John, you're a little older, but Jack, and your other guest, what was his name again?
Michael.
Michael.
We like to call him Tobias, though.
Tobias.
Tobias.
It looks like
Somebody else called me that today. By the way, I met somebody else today at the rally. I mean, at the fucking rally, the fucking football game. And this dude there, like, me and him started getting along. He's now coming to the election party, at least the champs one that I have to attend for part of it. And I was talking to him, and he was like, "You look like this dude from." It was a different show, but it was the Alvin from Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Same actor. Same actor.
Yeah, no, it was the same fucking actor because he looked at my cat.
Are you embracing it now? That
Yeah.
is true.
It's a compliment. We never meant it as an insult.
I mean, listen, I already have
never nude. I
I already have no hair anyway. So
It's looking good.
So anyway, here's my question.
Yes, go with it.
I'm very curious as to your guys' perspective.
Mm.
Under the aegis of, disenfranchisement, we created this idea that we needed mail-in ballots. And we created this idea that minorities don't know how to vote, have a hard time voting, can't get to the election office, don't have IDs, all these things. What are your views regarding those ideas where regular American people in our culture can't fend for themselves and need mail-in ballots and need extended hours to vote and need this and need that? What is your guys' take?
I was going to jump in real quick because I just saw something about this earlier that seems to be completely true to me. But the idea that like requiring voter ID is racist is uniquely held by liberal white people. They are the only people that believe that.
The only ones.
Yeah, if you poll minorities, even left ones, they literally don't even understand the question. That's that sort of bigotry of low expectations.
Right.
Like it's so racist. As much as
Appallingly so.
it's so racist. And like I find that kind of thing funny. As much as
Appallingly
so,
so.
I'm all about
and like I find that kind of thing funny.
As much as
Appallingly
what
so.
they look like, what the, if you choose it, then maybe it's a little more personal. But yeah, and I encourage people to make fun of me for any and everything that I, the color of my skin or whatever.
We do.
Yeah, and we do. It's really our culture here at the Slater House. But yeah, that I saw somebody. I wish I could remember who tweeted that because I don't want to take credit for it. But they actually studied it and they polled, and it was like liberal white people only.
Wasn't it Rasmussen? It was Rasmussen.
You might be right.
Either them or Rich Barris, one of the two.
But yeah, it's and there's been isn't the amazing racist? Isn't he a content creator? He went out and this was years ago, but he went out to some ghetto and was like, hey, do you have an ID and do you know how to vote and do you know how to get an ID?
Oh no, wait, I think
they literally didn't understand like why they thought he was kind of making fun of him, and he's like, no, this is the position of the left, that like you're such a fucking retard that you don't know how to go to the DMV and get an ID.
Yeah.
And of course they do, and they're offended by the idea, as they should be. But yeah, the kitty gloves thing is it's this weird. There's this whole crowd of I mean, I'm in the Northeast, I guess. So to me, it seems like it's uniquely
We aren't the Northeast. We're in the Rust Belt.
Close enough. So but I'm talking about people like New York and Connecticut and things like that, where those tend to be the people that hold those beliefs, and they've never really been around minorities. And as soon as a minority moves in next door, they all say, let's move the fuck out of here. Like it's the hypocrisy of their racism is hilarious. And so it's a position of luxury to be able to look down upon minorities or women or whatever group you want. The only way you can hold that position is if you've had a luxurious life without a lot of challenges, and because if you haven't, like none of us have, and if you deal with normal Americans, it's very evident how stupid that position is. That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I agree with John. And uniquely enough, it isn't just liberals; it's specifically American liberals. I find.
Yeah, good point.
Like, if you ask them, they'll say, "Oh, we need we need hate speech laws like Europe. We need gun control laws like the rest of the world." But when it comes to voter ID laws that they all already have implemented, they're just like, no, but for no reason. And I hate to give him credit for this, but even Destiny, he even questions like why this is the norm. I saw a clip of that on Twitter. But in regards to your question, do I think we should have? Obviously, I'm going to stress the importance of mail-in balloting for this election cycle. Conservatives should do it to get an edge on liberals voting in this election, but if you ask me, I think it's something we need to do away with. If personally, I want there to just be a holiday dedicated to voting. No election month.
Same thing. I agree.
One day.
I disagree.
You disagree?
Yes, I think. Well, first off,
Gotta get a light on you.
First off, with like voting, the big thing is like this comes from a philosophical view. So to answer your question, the Democrats have always been the racist ones. It goes back from It goes back from the 1800s all the way up until today. They're the same party with the same overall ideological view. The whole psyop about the party switch never happened. The parties never switched. We still stand for the same things we stood for in the 1800s versus today. It's just the difference is they were able to make a group of people reliant on the government and believe that the government can solve all of their issues. But to what you were saying, I think that having multiple days for elections, I actually think that this, what we're seeing right now, exactly proves why we should have multiple days. Because we're seeing in Bucks County, when they're attempting to cheat and to limit the amount of people voting, that you can get in there and litigation can start early. The earlier people start voting in mass, I think the better that this stuff can be pointed out and the more people that ballots can actually be secured. Right
Which
now,
is fundamentally what happened in 2020.
well,
That
yeah, exactly.
The difference, the time space between the election and January 6th obviously wasn't enough time. The founders never envisioned this thing happening.
Well, we have better
to this
lawyers
level.
this time too. We have much better lawyers this time around.
Well, see, I think for me, the primary reason that I favor same day only voting and in person is I think there should be some sort of barrier to entry to people that are allowed to vote. People have all sorts of different metrics, right? You have to be able to pass some sort of civics test, or you have to be a landowner, or et cetera, et cetera. For me, the bare minimum is you have to be able to get off your lazy ass on election day and go vote. With the exception of you have medical conditions, you're serving in the military, et cetera. And I think what that does is it gets rid of a lot of low propensity voters, particularly people that you see that are encouraged by things like ballot harvesting, because what in effect ballot harvesting's allowing is you go to a community where there's a bunch of people that could give two shits less, and you're like, here, fill this out real quick, I'll take it in for you. And you get a lot of people, not just that I'm saying aren't as smart as me, that's not the argument I'm making, but just don't give a shit. They don't give a shit to do the bare minimum, to even come up with a reason. It's, oh, who'd you tell me? Cardi B told me to vote for someone. Yeah, sure. I'll fill out the ballot, take it, throw it. Like, to me, just making people show up election day is a level of effort that's bare minimum, but at least it weeds out the people that are the least interested. And I think that
sounded an awful lot like an optimist there, Rob.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Actually,
which is cool by me.
I argue on this show. I've already argued it multiple times, and in person, I do this all the time. People are frankly extremely stupid. We need to have many less voters in this nation. Many less. We need to cut off a lot of the fluff. Most people are so stupid they should not be voting. But if you want a secure election with the system we have right now and how the mail-in ballots work, frankly, I think several days to vote is completely fine at the moment because it's getting the job done. We have litigations going again in Bucks County after the disaster that was the last 3 days there, which, by the way, I think Josh Shapiro is purposely doing that. I think he's trying to keep Kamala.
Okay.
He never put out a statement saying that Bucks had voting that was going beyond that day. He's been silent on sort of the illegality that occurred there, so I totally agree. We'll give all three of this for a, sort of a last question before we get you out of there. One of the things that's really hard to do for a lot of people is to talk to friends and family about voting. And a lot of times what you find is people, particularly that happen to be more conservative, they just want the government to leave them alone. They don't want to be constantly inundated with it. They don't want to think about politics. They don't. But politics keeps smacking them in the face. So as three guys that are clearly outspoken, what do you tell people around this time that need to be speaking to their coworkers, neighbors, friends, and family? Like, look, get your ass out there and vote. You know, you have to vote Republicans, not because you want the government to do X, Y, and Z, but because you're tired of them shoving their nose in your face, calling you non-essential, indoctrinating your children. How do you broach that conversation with people, particularly for people that aren't that comfortable, that don't want to constantly have politics beating them over the head?
Well, you guys want to jump on that?
Well, I guess I can start since I have some experience with this. It's called you just make it cold. You go up and you talk to people. The whole boomer idea of we should never talk about politics. We should never bring it up at the dinner table. People brought it up all the time back in the day. We should have philosophical discussions constantly. That is how you keep your mind engaged. That's how you debate as a society. You cannot completely avoid politics. It's going to come up. And for people that say, I didn't really want to vote, then I tell them, then I don't want to hear you bitching and complaining when we lose. Men are the problem right now. Women are voting, but so many women vote that the Democrats win because they lean much more heavily Dem. If even within 5% of the amount of men voted, Trump would be winning right now. So we have to catch up with the percent of men. I tell men constantly, you are supposed to be masculine. In today's society that is teaching you to and you can be fine, you can be a fag, you can act like a woman, you don't have to be a man anymore. You have to stand on principles. Men have to be Christian, they have to stand up for something. And an easy thing to do is just go and vote on election day. Just go and stand in a line for 4 hours and vote. There's no excuses for why you shouldn't be there. I don't want to hear anything from anyone. And when people say that to me, I'm like, then you aren't a real man because you can't take charge of anything around you.
You having a lot of success with this tactic, Michael?
Yes, actually, especially especially with people in frats, because the fact of the matter is when I demean them and I say that then you aren't masculine, that gets them to turn out.
Do you Arlie Ermy them like Full Metal Jacket style? You go in there and you're like, to me, you are all equally worthless.
Honestly, when they say they aren't voting, I'm like, the fuck are you doing?
Right.
Like,
I'm just giving you a hard time.
You're going to
respect it. You got to fight.
You're going to sit here and complain about how bad America is and about how everyone's turning into a soy boy and the government's funding all of us to turn into basically women. And yet you aren't going to do anything about it. You can't even go and vote on election day. That's my problem with men. American men have been so completely neutered.
Speaking of men,
Yeah.
Mike, problems with Jack Kentner.
Yeah,
I love Jack. Don't say that.
Yeah, I completely agree with Michael. As someone, like I said before, I've been tabling downtown at State College, trying to get people to vote. And the best way you can get people to vote is just by being authentic, by being open. If you're not, if you just keep your opinions to yourselves, that implies that you're doing something wrong or that you should be ashamed of your beliefs or opinions. When you absolutely shouldn't. You should be open, and the more open you are, like frankly, the happier you're going to be. I've had people tell me that once they put a Trump sticker on their laptop, they've had a lot of high fives and just like, yeah, I'm voting for Trump too, by people they didn't even know were conservatives. So just be more open. And frankly, if you don't and you just don't decide to vote, the person you hate that is like a raging lib that wants that shoves all their opinions and pronouns down your throat, they're going to vote. The stupidest person is going to vote, and not you. They're going to have a more influence over your life than you. So just keep that in mind if you're planning on not voting.
I mean, just real quick, one other thing to go with that. I just think that. Well, okay, first, I lost my spot. What did you just say, real quick? Run back through it.
Oh my God.
There's a point I wanted to make. There's a good point. What you just say, run back through it real quick.
If someone's trying to push their pronouns down your throat, they're going to have more influence over your life than you.
Okay, well, I'll just feed off of that.
Okay.
That went south quickly.
Do you want me to save you here?
No.
Do you want me to step in and?
No, I'm doing fine.
No, I know. I'm just.
I
like making it harder for you.
I like it when it comes to telling people how that you need to vote or whatever. Frankly, that's what it was. Being yourself. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So being yourself is the biggest thing. Just go and proudly showcase it to people, because if you don't, then the Overton window isn't going to move. I'm all about moving the Overton window. Do you know what the Overton window is, sir?
I do.
Oh,
I know.
are you kidding?
Good.
I actually think that kind of accidentally said, I'm cutting you off.
No.
I actually didn't mean to, but I'm going to anyway now that I have. Because I think it leads into, and it actually brings us full circle nicely. People do not follow ideas. When I say people, I'm talking the people Michael said are all fucking retarded. I mean,
Yep.
I think that's a little harsh as you get older. It's people, attention is probably more of a key concept than intelligence. And it's really, you're fighting as a creator for their attention. And there's a lot of smart people who will justifiably often not pay attention to you if your content sucks. And so I wouldn't so quickly blame them. But people don't follow ideas, they follow people. And Trump is by far the most obvious recent example of this. For all of his great policies and things, which Rob, you especially, I know, will know more about than I ever will. That's not why I follow Trump. It's part of the reason why I follow Trump. But I guess maybe when going back to 2016, when I got the push to actually make a YouTube video that turned into a channel with close to 200,000 subscribers, was 100% fundamentally because of the giant ball sack Trump pulled out in 2016, and just like reawoke me to the idea that that was possible.
Yes, sir.
And so, yes, logic will help. It'll help a lot more with men than with women. We'd be better off with like a Brad Pitt conservative that, and women would just fucking follow him. But I don't think you need to judge people for that. We can each have our own opinions on this, but I'm famously, a lot of my brand is from doing research with primates, with monkeys and gorillas and things like that. And there's a lot more of us. I always say I've learned more about people from studying primates than the other way around. There's this certain type of alpha. I mean, I hate that word, but like a true leader, a guy who is leading from the front, just takes an unbelievable amount of bullshit from the media and everybody else and just doesn't fold. And that was much more common 50 years ago, 100 years ago, and everybody was that way, 200 years ago, and the whole patriarchy thing and that bullshit. But I think humans in general, I think if you want to go back like 50,000 years, I really truly believe it was all run by women. I think women sort of crossed this IQ threshold first, and that's where you see all those weird statues, the fertility goddesses and things. And then somewhere, thank God, between then and now, men sort of took over and made everything more logical. And that's recently come back. And so now men especially are waking up to this sort of primal instinct of needing to lead. It feels good. Like that's the part. It feels good when you stand up and it's like, it's not logic. I mean, it is.
No, it is logic,
but it isn't. It's not. It's that and many other things that sort of combine into this impossible to define idea.
Are you
like
thinking-
you mean like a soul?
Shut your fucking mouth. I'm muting your mic. And so, yeah, just like that right there. It's just like there's not a. It's the point. And well, you were both saying this to some effect too, which is you want to go out to the frats and tell them get your fucking asses out there and vote. So that's not logic. You know what I mean? It's so you're contradicting yourselves if I'm going to be an asshole about it. But no, there's something we're meant to do that we're not doing. And I think that's a useless statement in a lot of ways, especially in terms of logic. But would you deny it? I mean, doesn't it feel like that in some sense that like we're really close, but and maybe the two of you are woken up or whatever term you want to use for it. But yeah, you say, how do you convince people to go vote for Trump? I don't know that you can. I don't know that people really can be consciously convinced of things. They can be unconsciously, when their attention is misdirected, led in directions that they don't really realize they're going. And so more so than making a conscious argument for why Trump or why Republican or why any particular policy, you just need to wake people up to the idea that it's possible to think for yourself. And I really believe when people think for themselves, everything will take care of itself. These stupid problems we have are not from thinking people coming up with stupid ideas. It's from evil thinking people convincing unthinking people to follow stupid ideas that lead them to their own slaughter. And so you just got to wake them up. And again, that comes full circle to, by far the best way to do that is to be having more fun than the other side. It looks more, it's the fucking beer ad with bikinis in a truck and that kind of shit. It fucking works. This was known in advertising decades and decades ago. And then it seems stupid. And all of a sudden it's like, maybe there was some truth to that.
The meme
That's
magic. That's what took 2016. It was the memes. It was the fun.
It was the meme magic.
Yes,
exactly
sir.
Right.
It's
So
back again.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I'm really honored to have you come on.
Thank you, Rob.
Give yourselves a shout out one last time and tell people where they could find you.
My name is John Ward. You can find me on YouTube under John Ward with a yellow Harambe flag. And the project we are starting now is Studio Center. It's not open yet, but I will post that website on my website whenever I get a chance.
I'm Jack Kettner. You can find me on Twitter from Jack at Jack_Kettner, and I have a channel in progress reviewing movies called KinoFlex.
KinoFlex.
Yep.
My name is Michael Carney, and I do have a Twitter as well. My handle is Michael PA Con, just that right there. And then also at some point I plan on starting a YouTube channel myself. I'll be podcasting and basically going over politics and religion. It's a mix of both because philosophy and politics tie in together.
Yeah, so all these guys will have their own channels launching very shortly. Rob, thank you so much for having us.
Anytime,
Rob.
man.
Good to
Get
meet
your
you.
Are we up against a hard deadline?
Yeah, I'll talk to you in 1 second here, Carlos. Guys, I'll let you go. Get your asses out there and vote. Tuesday, you're gonna you'll wash the taste out of this shitty Penn State loss out of your mouth Tuesday
Fuck
night.
James
So
Franklin. Fuck that man.
Fire James Franklin.
we'll see you
Big
guys.
bald-headed ass.
Thank you guys so much. I'm so excited for you guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great guys. Take it easy.
Thank
guys.
you.